So this segment is about arts, culture, and entertainment, which are obviously critical to community building, to the quality of life, and actually really drive what is important in cities and in our business as well. This morning, we'll hear from 3 thought leaders who will share how arts, culture, and entertainment can inspire and transform communities. So our first speaker is Neches of Goldman Srebnick. Jessica is the CEO of Goldman Properties in Miami. She will speak to us today about developing connections between art and public space. Jessica?
Good morning. My name is Neches Goldman Srebnick. I'm the CEO of a company called Goldman Properties. I'm the 2nd generation. The company was founded by my father, Tony Goldman. And I'm here to talk to you about art. And when I was asked to talk, so we'd like you to come to the ULI conference and we'd like you to speak about art and creativity. And I thought to myself, I thought a lot about that actually. Why is that significant? I actually think that that's profoundly significant. And I'm here to tell you that art is a game changer. It's a game changer in the real estate world. It's a game changer in perceptions. It's a game changer just in general. And so I can't talk to you about anything without talking to you about where I come from. And so this is my dad. His name is Tony, and my mom's actually sitting in the front row over here. And so my dad was an artist at heart, but he was also a visionary real estate person, a visionary real estate developer. And so what is it to be a visionary? To be a visionary is about seeing things that other people don't see or can't see or don't want to see. And so in the 1970s, this is Soho, this is Green Street. And so we actually lived on the top floor of this building. And what he saw here was he saw beautiful cast iron architecture, and he saw the ability for people to live in large spaces. And at that time, no one had really heard about loft spaces, but this is what he really believed was the future of Soho. Now, Soho has changed, and today, this is that same building, and it's that same street, and today it's one of the most iconic streets in the world, and it's, you know, the best architecture, the best retail, the best residential, best office space. This is what he saw in the 1980s. This is Ocean Drive. And so people ask us, you know, what do you do? You know, real estate development, what do you do? We like to consider ourselves neighborhood revitalizers. So what we do is we go into neighborhoods very early on. And so here, we came to Miami Beach in 1986, and my dad bought a property a month for 18 months. There was no bank financing. Everybody thought he was out of his mind, including me. And this is what it is today. This is one of the most iconic, most recognized streets in the world, Ocean Drive. This is Miami Beach then. This is Miami Beach today. This is one of our projects. It was our first garage, and it was about taking and respecting the architecture and marrying that to something really creative. So one of the neighborhoods where we went was a neighborhood called Wynwood. And so Wynwood, in the 1990s, had the highest crime rate of any neighborhood in Miami. It was hopeless, it was crime-ridden, it was poor, it was neglected. And this is what we found. We're New York City people, born and raised. And so Miami was a very vehicular neighborhood, destination, very different than what it's becoming. And so we wanted kind of a pedestrian center. Location was amazing. The architecture, there was nothing significant about the architecture. It was a single-story neighborhood, all industrial use, and the neighborhood was dying. The neighborhood was struggling for breath. And I say that for a reason. And so what our company really saw here was, again, about being visionary. It's not what you see, it's what it could be. It's not about what it is, it's about what it could be. And so again, totally desolate. Whoops. But there's something really interesting about this neighborhood. What this neighborhood had at its foundation was art, and a lot of it, and all graffiti art, all street art. Some of it was great, some of it wasn't so great. But when we go into neighborhoods, we look for the DNA of the neighborhood, because every neighborhood is different. Like children, I have 3 sons. Every single one of them are completely different from the other. And like our neighborhoods, we don't duplicate. We find the essence of what that neighborhood is all about, and we build on that. And so one of the lessons that I've learned, of the many, many lessons that I've learned from going to the Tony Goldman School of Business, is that the most challenging experiences are where we learn the most. And so here was a neighborhood that was really out of breath, and here was my father, who was losing lung capacity. Literally, he couldn't breathe. And in the midst of buying real estate, and in the midst of immersing ourselves into this neighborhood, because when we go into neighborhoods, it's all about a marathon mindset. It's not about a sprinter's mindset. It's about when you go in hard, you go in dedicated, you're committed, and you're there, and you're passionate. And so this was a time where my dad was really losing the ability to breathe. And the only cure for that was actually a double lung transplant. And so he had a double lung transplant, and he recognized the importance of every breath. He recognized that this was going to be a neighborhood that was going to take all of the lessons that he had learned in Soho, in South Beach, in Center City, Philadelphia, on Stone Street, in Wall Street, all the neighborhoods where we had been, he was going to take those lessons and throw them into this neighborhood. And this would become our most creative, our most innovative, most incredible neighborhood that we had worked on to date, because he recognized that time is precious. And we must do things that we love, and we must do things that we're passionate about. And so I turned to art, because art was really the core of what this neighborhood was all about. And so I believe that art changes perceptions. I look at this and I see beauty. I see a little chaos. I see color. I see energy. Same here. So someone else might look at this and say, this is garbage. But it's really about perception, and art changes perception. And these are my parents. And I'm a very big believer that you have to really be grateful for what you came from. And so I come from a household of optimism. It was all about seeing the best in everything. Even in a really crappy neighborhood, even in a scary neighborhood, there's opportunity. There's beauty everywhere. You just have to maybe wash it off, light it, make people feel safe, and put beautiful things around. And so that's what we did in Wynwood. And this is what we call the Wynwood walls. And what we did, we buy, in every neighborhood we go into, we buy up to between 18 and 25 properties. We get them very cheap because nobody wants them. And in this case, we brought people in, we brought the best street artists in the world to paint our walls. So these were the backs of all of our buildings. We lit them, we invited them, and for those of you that recognize street artists, there's Shepard Fairey, there's Futura, there's Osgemios, there's Ron English, there's Kenny Scharf, represented from all over the world. And this, with a little bit of spray paint, we didn't change the structure of anything. It was just some paint and an immense amount of creativity, and we let the artists have their canvas. We gave them huge canvases. And this, whoops, go back. This is what we did. This is called the Wynwood Walls. And so the Wynwood Walls, from when we went to Wynwood in 2006 to today, we have, on a single day, we could have 15,000 people come through the Wynwood Walls. It's free, it's open to the public, and it is the largest outdoor street art museum in the world. And execution is essential. You can have a vision, but without execution, your vision stays a daydream. And so we have the benefit of an extraordinary team of people that can take an idea and turn it into reality. This is what happens at night. Again, you can see, you surround people with beauty and with color and with creativity, and really creative people want to be there. I included this image because this gives you a sense of the topography of the neighborhood. This is the type of neighborhood that you will find anywhere in the world. There's no, it's a single-story neighborhood. Now that will change. You'll see the evolution of the neighborhood over the course of the next few years. But with neighborhoods, first people want play in a neighborhood, then people want to work in a neighborhood, then people want to live in a neighborhood. And so playing is about hospitality. It's about restaurants. So we go into these neighborhoods. This was our first restaurant. Really exciting, right? Really cool looking building. That's what we turned it into. And again, didn't add anything on, didn't build it up. We opened the windows. We let people see what was happening inside. And we made a significant investment into a neighborhood where there was no pedestrian traffic at all. And we put down our roots, and we said, we're here, we're pioneering, we believe in it, and we believe in it so much that we're going to open our own restaurant. And we've done that all across the last 47 years. So for people that are from New York or know New York, we had the Green Street Cafe, we had the Soho Kitchen and Bar, we had the Wall Street Kitchen and Bar, we had Trust in Philadelphia, we had Wish in Miami Beach, we had Lucky's in Miami Beach. And so hospitality is a really, really important component in bringing people to a neighborhood, because restaurants drive people to a neighborhood unlike anything else. They drive people en masse. People will go to a great restaurant even if it's in a really crappy neighborhood. And so restaurants ignite the neighborhood. It brings street life. This was one of our properties, and this was the before. This is the after. And I show this to you because one of the important components in creating creative neighborhoods is curation. And curation is not just about art. Curation is about tendencies, and it's about interesting tendencies. It's about differentiated tendencies. So it's about the craft coffee maker or the artisanal baker. It's about creative office users. This is a 40,000 square foot office building. And at the time, we were getting $6 a square foot. I couldn't figure out where this building, we had all this property in the neighborhood, and everything looked the same. We needed to create landmarks. We needed to create places where people knew, like, I know that building, that's Zebra Building. So we painted it. Today we get $35 a square foot. And we get incredible creative users, all kinds of users. And it's not just about galleries. Really wonderful neighborhoods are a mix of everything, and it's about curating that mix. This is what's happening inside. It's about technology. It's about innovation. It's about co-working spaces. Have you guys seen kind of spaces like this in the places that you live? I mean, you find them anywhere, right? Just really kind of ugly. That's what we turn that into. I mean, doesn't it make you feel differently than that? I mean, that's beautiful too. That's more beautiful. This is a very interesting building. This was the first building that we rented to a tenant when we came to the neighborhood. And I like to kind of talk about the swimming pool. So the swimming pool, like when you're surrounded by, you're around a swimming pool, nobody wants to jump in until the first person jumps in. And we're always that first person to jump in, because my dad always taught me, never give in to fear, ever. Never give in to fear. Fear will paralyze you. And so we needed a great tenant. We needed a tenant to anchor the neighborhood so that others would feel like, you know what, okay, they're gonna go into the neighborhood, I wanna go into the neighborhood. So we made a deal with the Museum of Contemporary Art, and we gave them a lease for $1 a year for 4 years. And all of a sudden, we had our first tenant. So people ask, what's the future of Wynwood? What I believe the future of Wynwood to be? I believe that it's going to become one of the most important neighborhoods in the world for public art. I believe that it's going to become one of the most important neighborhoods in the world for the marriage of art and architecture. You ask me what this is. Well, nobody asked me, but I'll tell you. That's a garage. That's a garage. That's going to be my offices, too. This is a beautiful marriage of art and architecture that gives a sense of authenticity to the neighborhood, so it feels like it's been there. But obviously, we're a single-story neighborhood, and that's going to change. And so how that changes, and we believe that we have to be the example of that change. This is another building that's in the process. And so you notice, it's a little hard to see here, but there are steps that go throughout the building, all the way to the top of the building. And so why is that important? We live in an urban neighborhood that has very little public space. And so we want to create public space. We want to create interesting spaces so that people can congregate. Just like the Wynwood Walls is our neighborhood center, this is another opportunity to create that interesting dynamic in an urban environment, which is where people want to live and want to be. We don't ever design without integrating art into our projects. This is a top-down look from the first building our first office building in Soho. And you take a look down to the street, and that is the New York City subway map embedded into the sidewalk. There are three creative sidewalks in New York City. 2 of them are our projects. This is the inside of our building. You put beautiful art, and it doesn't have to be expensive. You put interesting things in your projects, and interesting people want to be there. This is Philadelphia. It's the element of surprise. I love driving places and kind of paying attention and finding interesting things here and there wherever I look. This is a wall that my dad, he bought this piece of property. It's 10 feet wide, but it's an entire block. And so we have this wall. Keith Haring was the first person to paint this wall. We have committed to giving this wall as a gift to the city of New York that we curate. It's part of my job. I curate. We curate artists 3 times a year. This changes, and we bring some of the greatest artists in the world to come paint, and that's our gift. This I wanted to throw in here because this is our website, our homepage for a real estate company. Now, if you can see down there, it says art at the core. That's who we are, that's our DNA, and everything we do integrates art because it's good for business, it's interesting, it's purposeful, it's fun, and why surround yourself with something that's just sterile when you can surround yourself with something that's fascinating? So, I love this picture. This is not our project, but I feel like I have a room full of people in the real estate world. We have the greatest, biggest, most incredible canvases in the world, our properties, right? And it's a function of what are you going to do with them? And so, whether it's something charming like this as a deadbolt, whether it's sculpture, large-scale sculpture, I think you're going to see more and more of that. Or it could be sales. I mean, it could be anything. And I always like to end with this picture, because this is one of my favorite pictures ever in the whole world. And, I talked about my dad and his challenge and his double lung transplant. And so on the 15-year anniversary of my employ, my dad named me the CEO. one of the greatest days of my life. And 5 days later, he passed away, one of the most horrible days of my life. But I always keep with me where I come from. And I'm always grateful for every breath. And we have to make a difference, and we have to have purpose, and we have to have fun. And I thank you for inviting me here, and I hope I've inspired you.